Toyota paid $3.4 billion to fix something a $40 spray could have prevented. That is not a typo. The class action settlement covered 1.5 million Tacomas, Tundras, and Sequoias with frames that rusted through from the inside. 225,000 of those trucks needed full frame replacements at $15,000 each. The Toyota dealer in your town has done this work. Court documents made the cost public. Meanwhile, Japanese owners drive 20-year-old vehicles in the Salt Belt regions of Hokkaido without rust. Same trucks coming off the same Tahara factory line, same metal, different practice. I am going to walk you through the 4-part Japanese rust prevention protocol that does what Toyota's factory undercoating could not. Component 4 is the one Western shops skip, and it is the one that decides whether your $40 actually saves your $15,000 frame. So here is the question worth your next 15 minutes. How does a $40 can of spray prevent a problem that cost Toyota $3.4 billion to settle? Quick disclaimer before we start, the tips and guides in this video are for educational purposes only. Every vehicle is different, so please use this information at your own risk. We are not responsible for any damage or injury that may occur. When in doubt, always consult a professional mechanic. When I went looking for the science behind this, what I found surprised me. The University of Connecticut Department of Metallurgy and Materials Engineering ran independent corrosion testing on wet film lanolin coating. They confirmed it effectively reduces corrosion of 2024 grade aluminum in saltwater brine. That is exactly the chemistry attacking your truck's frame. Every winter morning, the salt trucks roll out. A peer-reviewed study published in 2014 by Hassan and colleagues, indexed in the journal Progress in Organic Coatings on Science Direct, confirmed lanolin's corrosion inhibition through Fourier transform infrared spectroscopy. They watched the chemistry happen at the molecular level. The U.S. Navy has used lanolin-based corrosion coatings on ship hulls since the 1940s. The military specifications are public record. MILR 21006, MILC 23050, MILPR F18458C. The chemistry has been settled for 80 years. The application is what is missing in the West. But to understand why this works at all, you need to understand why your car is rusting right now, even sitting dry in your driveway. Every saltwater droplet on your frame is a tiny battery. That is not a metaphor. That is the actual electrochemistry of rust. On one side of the droplet, iron donates electrons. The metal becomes iron 2+ ions and dissolves into the water. That side is the anode. On the opposite side, oxygen accepts those electrons and combines with water to form hydroxide ions. That side is the cathode. The two reactions are connected through the metal underneath and through the water film above. That is your battery. Slow corrosion in clean rain. Manageable damage over decades. Now add road salt. Sodium chloride dissociates into sodium ions and chloride ions in the water film. Those chloride ions are the wire that completes the circuit. The voltage potential jumps. The reaction rate accelerates by an order of magnitude. Slow corrosion becomes rapid corrosion. This is exactly why the Toyota 2005 to 2010 frames failed. Their factory undercoating was specified for general North American conditions, not for the chloride concentrations on main highways or Quebec winters or Minnesota interstates. The class action court documents make that distinction explicit. The iron compound that forms, iron oxide hydrate, takes up about 7 times more space than the iron it replaced. That is why rust does not just discolor your frame. It splits welded seams from the inside. It pushes paint outward until you see those orange bubbles forming under the top coat. By the time you can see rust on the surface, it has already done damage you cannot see. And there is one more piece of chemistry the Western rust shops never address. The hydroxide ions formed at the cathode raise the local pH. That high pH chemically destroys the thin protective oxide layer iron normally forms. So the cathode keeps creating new anodes around itself. The reaction feeds itself. That is why rust spreads. Not because it is contagious, because it is electrochemically self-perpetuating. So here's the equation worth memorizing. Water plus oxygen plus salt equals battery. Every Western prevention method addresses one variable. The Japanese approach attacks all three at once. It is not that you have been doing rust prevention wrong. It is that the industry sold you methods that address one variable while the chemistry runs on three. Consider the rubberized undercoating most American shops spray. It dries hard within hours. Then thermal cycling between summer pavement heat and winter cold cracks it. Once it cracks, moisture seeps under the coating and stays there, trapped against bare metal that now has zero airflow. You have built a humidity chamber on your frame. The coating that was supposed to protect you is now accelerating the chemistry it was sold to prevent. Consider the standard touchless car wash. It sprays your sides, your hood, your roof. The undercarriage gets a token rinse from a single low-pressure nozzle. Salt and brine sit on your frame rails for months between treatments. Consider that stone chip you noticed on your bumper 3 months ago. That is the entry point. Once the factory paint is breached and exposed metal sits in chloride spray, the chemistry I just described starts inside the door panel, where you will never see it until the rust comes out the other side. And consider Toyota itself. Their factory engineers were not lazy. They specified a single coating compound for Phoenix, Arizona, and for Bangor, Maine. Same truck, same protection, wildly different conditions. The class action settlement was the cost of that decision. The Japanese method is not actually one thing. It is a combination, applied in a specific order that no Western shop teaches. The order is what makes it work. The Japanese order is wash, dry, spray, seal. Western shops do spray. That is why their results fail and Japanese results last. At the center of the method is wet film lanolin coating. Lanolin is the natural wax sheep produce on their wool, the same compound in your skin moisturizer. But the chemistry that makes it good for skin makes it remarkable for steel. Wet film lanolin does not seal the surface, it displaces water. The high sterile content actively wicks moisture out of the metal coating interface. There is no humidity chamber to build. There is no place for the battery to form. The chemistry I described in Section 3 cannot start because one of the three required components is being chemically pushed away from the metal at all times. And here's the part that makes it remarkable. When you scratch the coating during driving, gravel, road debris, branches, the lanolin reflows over the scratch within hours. It is self-healing. Wax that wakes up. The Hassan study confirmed this with infrared spectroscopy. The lanolin film maintains its barrier properties through repeated mechanical disruption. This is why the US Navy approved it for ship hulls in the 1940s. Specification MILR 21006 covers exactly this. Long-term corrosion protection on metal exposed to constant salt spray, where rigid coatings fail within months. The University of Connecticut tested it. The US Navy has used it for 80 years. Toyota paid $3.4 billion to fix what a $40 can of this would have prevented. But here's the limitation the Horty on the internet mentions. This works in 95% of cases. There is one situation where applying lanolin actively accelerates rust. If you spray it over existing flaking rust, the coating seals moisture into the metal pocket underneath. You have just sealed the chemistry experiment in. That is the failure mode every glowing review skips. We will fix that in 90 seconds. So if lanolin solves the chemistry, why do most American shops still spray rubberized? The answer is in their margins, not the science. A $40 can that lasts a year does not pay rent on a body shop. A $600 rubberized treatment that fails in 5 years does. The Japanese protocol begins where every American method ends, with the wash. Step 1 is a high-pressure undercarriage rinse. The point is not to clean. The point is to remove every trace of road salt before any treatment touches the metal. At Japanese gas station car washes, this option costs about 500 yen, around $3.50. The American equivalent is a $15 to $25 commercial undercarriage wash or a $6 hose attachment from your local auto parts store. You spray the frame rails, the suspension mounts, the brake line routes, and the inside of the wheel wells. If your wheel wells have plastic liners, you spray behind those. The salt collects there. Step 2 is the one Western shops skip entirely. You let the metal dry completely. Moisture trapped under any coating is the failure mode of every protection product on the market. 24 hours of air drying is enough in most weather. 30 minutes with a compressed air gun on the frame rails works. If you cannot wait. What is not enough is spraying lanolin onto wet steel, which is exactly what shops do when you book a same-day appointment because labor billing requires turnover. Step 3 is the actual lanolin spray. Fluid Film, Wool Wax, and Crown are the 3 brands with documented multi-decade field track records. There are others. Those are the ones with photo time series and customer data going back to the 1990s. You target frame rails first, then suspension mounts, then brake line routes, then pinch welds along the rocker panels. Then you reach inside body cavities through the factory drain holes. Every modern vehicle has them, usually plugged with rubber grommets you can pop out and replace. 1 gallon costs $40 to $60 and covers a full-size truck twice. Application is light multi-pass coverage, not heavy single coats. A heavy coat traps air bubbles where lanolin cannot reach the metal. Multiple light passes flow into every micro pit. Step 4 is the component nobody does. Touch-up paint on every stone chip within 7 days of finding it. That chip on your hood, your bumper, your fender, that is the chloride entry point I described in section 3. The factory paint is breached. The exposed metal is now sitting in a chemistry experiment every time you drive in winter. A $15 bottle of factory color match paint in 5 minutes per chip seals the breach before the cathode ever forms. Skip step 4. And steps 1 through 3 are buying you time, not protection. Here is the timing detail Western shops never explain. Apply lanolin in dry weather, never within an hour of a wash, even if the visible water is gone. Apply in fall before the first salt truck rolls, September or October across most of the salt belt, and reapply annually around the tire areas. The high-pressure spray off your own tires erodes about 10% of the coverage there per year. Photo time series across multiple winters confirm this. And remember that limitation about flaking rust? Here is the fix. For any existing surface rust, you mechanically remove the loose material first. Wire brush, then a rust converter like Naval Jelly or POR-15, which chemically converts iron oxide into a stable phosphate layer. Then, you apply lanolin over the converted surface. Skip the conversion step and you really are sealing the experiment in. Most shops do not do this because it adds an hour of labor they cannot bill cleanly. Total cost for the 4-component system on a typical truck, under $80, with 40 of that being annual reapplication. The full math comparison is next. But first, if knowing why your $40 spray beats Toyota's $3.4 billion problem is worth more than your next coffee, hit subscribe. Car Care Simplified breaks down the science behind Japanese maintenance every Tuesday. Now, let me put hard numbers on what we have just covered. The full Japanese protocol costs $40 to $80 per year, depending on whether you reuse partial cans or buy fresh annually. Spread across a typical 10-year ownership window, that comes out to $400 to $800 for the entire decade. Compare that to the alternative. A single frame replacement on a modern truck or SUV runs $10,000 to $20,000 depending on the model. The 2025 industry data from rust repair specialists is consistent on this number. Frame rust repair without full replacement, just structural welding work, still costs $2,000 to $5,000. Toyota's settlement specifies the math exactly. $15,000 per frame replacement multiplied by 225,000 trucks. That is $3.375 billion in actual replacement labor and parts that the company paid because preventive coatings worth less than your dinner were not specified at the Tahara factory. Here is what is verifiable in court documents. 225,000 frames, replaced at $15,000 each. Public record. What experienced rust shops recommend based on decades of field data rather than peer-reviewed study is annual reapplication in mild climates and biannual in the salt belt. Treat that as the floor, not the ceiling. So the ratio comes out to this. Toyota paid 375 times more per truck than the Japanese method costs per year. Multiply that by 225,000 trucks, and you understand why preventive culture in Japan is not a cultural quirk. It is economic engineering applied at the household level. At the national scale, the United States spends an estimated $100 billion per year replacing iron objects destroyed by corrosion. Your truck is one entry on that ledger. And if you are driving in Minnesota, Ohio, Michigan, Maine, Pennsylvania, or anywhere east of the Rockies that uses road salt, this stops being optional maintenance. It becomes the difference between owning your truck for 10 years or replacing the frame in year 8. The math is one-sided. The protocol takes one Saturday a year. The only thing left is to put it on the calendar. And putting all of this into action takes less time than you spend scrolling your phone over one weekend. Step 1. Undercarriage. Pressure wash. Cost: $5 to $10 DIY with a hose attachment, or $15 to $25 at a commercial undercarriage wash. Time: 15 minutes. Frequency: monthly, November through March. Quarterly, the rest of the year. Step 2. Complete dry. Cost: free or $30 one time for a compressed air gun. Time: 24 hours air drying or 30 minutes active drying. Frequency: every wash before any spray touches the metal. Step 3. Wet film lanolin application. Product: fluid film, wool wax, or crown. Cost: $40 to $60 per gallon, which covers a full-size truck twice. Time: 1 to 2 hours including prep. Frequency: annually in fall with a tire area touch-up in spring. Step 4. Touch-up paint on stone chips. Cost: $15 to $25 for factory color match paint that lasts 5 years. Time: 5 minutes per chip. Frequency: as discovered within 7 days. Step 5. Annual frame inspection. Cost: free. Time: 15 minutes with a flashlight under the vehicle. Frequency: every fall before reapplication, looking for soft spots, surface rust breakthrough, or coating erosion around the tire areas. If your vehicle is over 10 years old and already has surface rust, you may need professional treatment first. Ask any shop one question: do you use wet film lanolin, like fluid film or wool wax, or rubberized? If they say rubberized, walk away. Red flag: any shop quoting lifetime coating. Expect $400 to $700 for a first professional treatment, then $150 to $250 annually for reapplication. So back to the question I opened with. Toyota paid $3.4 billion. You can pay $40. Toyota did not pay $3.4 billion because rust is unavoidable. They paid it because reactive engineering cannot beat preventive culture. The Japanese owner does not have a secret product. They have a Saturday afternoon habit repeated every fall that costs less than a pizza dinner. The American buyer pays for the repair. The Japanese owner pays for the prevention. The difference compounds for 30 years. Remember that battery I described in section 3? The one running on iron, water, and salt? The Japanese method is just unplugging it for $40 a year before it drains $15,000 out of your wallet. Before we wrap up, there is one rust hotspot most professional treatments skip. It is not on the frame. It is where the brake lines route through the body, and 90% of shops never reach those routes with their spray. Next time you treat your undercarriage, hit those brake line paths first. Drop your zip code in the comments, and I will tell you if you are in the salt belt where this matters most. Truck owners, drop your year and model below. Some of you may still qualify for Toyota's frame replacement program even now. Run the 4-step protocol this fall, report back next spring with photos. And if you want to know what else Japanese engineers built that most Americans never use, there is a button in most modern cars that replaces 90% of your brake pedal pressure and doubles your brake pad life. Most drivers never touch it. Watch, stop pressing the brake. Japanese engineers built this button next. Every script, edit, and voiceover on this channel is crafted with real human expertise, not mass-produced content. If this helped you, subscribe for more.